Yeah, Shalom Israel. Before I start, we give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Mahara Kakadash. That's Yahweh, the name of the Heavenly Father. In the name of his son, Yahushai, the one who the world called Jesus. Dubliners, the elders and apostles in Israel, the rule and teach well, the Akim and the Ives and Byways, and those pushing this word in truth and sincerity. For the brothers and sisters in the truth. And this was a lesson I did the other day. But so I'm trying a new streaming program and I set certain settings wrong and it didn't come out good, so I'm just going to go over the lesson. Hopefully the lesson is edifying. Basically there's a video that was posted in a chat room that I'm in, which the information there I find is very edifying. So I just want to play the video and just bring out a few scriptures, because we know that this kingdom is going to fall. And the Most High is actually put in place his plan to deliver us out of here and to bring judgment upon this kingdom. All this is done very intricately by the Most High, and it's happening bit by bit. Those who have eyes to see will see that, this place is actually falling. Probably not fast enough for us, but then at the same time, that gives us time to try and clean up our garments even more. That's the beauty of it. As much as we want to get out of here quick, the time that we have, we can use it to even clean up the stains that's on our garment that bit better, so that when Yahushua returns, we can be found worthy. But I want to play this video and hopefully you find the video edifying. Now this is from a website called Redacted, so giving them their credit, and it's called Clayton Morris. It says NATO is going to get us all killed with this move. And all of this is, actually, let me bring this out quickly. All of this is down to the will of the Most High. This is how he's doing his works, man. Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21:1, it says, the king's heart, meaning the king's mind, is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Meaning, whatever these guys are coming up with, is Most High putting it in their spirit. When you read Job 33, I think it's 14 down to 17, when you're on your bed, the Most High seeth your instructions. And this is what we're seeing happening, man. So it says, NATO is going to get us all killed. Well, death is not something that we're going to be fearing. Especially if you're in the truth, you shouldn't be fearing death, because all death is ordained by the Most High. So it's either you die in the truth or out the truth. That's what we should be mindful of. Whether we die in the truth or out the truth. Hopefully this lesson and this video is edifying.
Well, Germany and the United States yesterday announced plans to send tanks to Ukraine. The United States with Abrams tanks, Germany with Leopard 2 tanks, Poland also announcing it's sending Leopard tanks to Ukraine yesterday. And this morning, we learned that Portugal announced it's sending tanks to Ukraine, a country that I didn't even know had any tanks. Russia says that Europe is now expanding the target for this war, and Russia will see these as potential targets going forward.
You hear that? Because these countries now started to aid Ukraine in giving them tanks, etc. The target is now being widened. Instead of it being able to just be focused on Ukraine, it's being widened to all these other nations that's supplying equipment to Ukraine to aid them to fight Russia. And the guy that is going to speak to is going to explain that in a bit more detail. But an example I like to give is this. Imagine you're arguing with someone and someone hands you a knife and you end up killing that person with the knife. Do you think you're going to be, the person who handed you the knife is going to be held blameless? No, you're going to be held blameless. And this is a similar situation, right? You're aiding Ukraine with armory, as if you're trying to, well, it's got nothing to do with that, so we're just giving them the weapons. Yeah, but you're giving them the weapons.
If we just escalated things beyond where they were before. Scott Ritter is a former UN weapons inspector. He knows a thing or two about weapons. and their implications. And he joins us on the show. Scott, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
So last week on the show, you said something that I thought was incredibly important, and I've been thinking about it all week, which is the more weapons we send to Ukraine, the more weapons NATO sends to Ukraine, the weaker it makes Ukraine, both in terms of manpower and, of course, opening up for further attack. You see this amplification, these additional tanks that are being sent as vindication of your message, or is now Ukraine going to win this war?
Well, Ukraine's not going to win this war. They're definitely not going to win it with 14 Leopard 2 tanks, A6 variants that Germany claims it's going to provide by the end of March, early April.
And just like over in the UK, when you listen to the media, how they report this, oh, Ukraine's doing so good, and but then you have to think like Russia is actually being very tempered in how they fight this war. If you look at the two armies, this is Ukraine, this is Ukraine's army, and this is Russia's army. There's no comparison in size, but yet still you're going to have people believe that this is doing very good against this. And this is how the media works, They push a narrative which a lot of people fall for if they're not doing their own research, their own due diligence.
14 Leopard A2 tanks that Poland's going to provide, between 30 and 50 Abrams tanks, which aren't going to show up on the battlefield till the end of this year or early next year, or any other tanks that are going to be provided. The fact of the matter is, these tanks aren't game changers. The Ukrainians have been trained to fight in Soviet-era tanks, T-72s, and their own T-64 updates, three-person crews. They're inheriting tanks right now. They're going to receive tanks that have a four-person crew. Why? Because you have to manually load these tanks. And so automatically the whole concept of, putting a crew in a tank and employing the tank is fundamentally changed. And if you haven't trained on this, if you haven't practiced on it, you're getting into a system. It's like, if I brought you a Formula One car and you've never trained on high-speed driving, and I said, Clayton, take her for a spin. Right? You would be like a little old grandma. Man, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to handle this piece of machinery. That's going to be the Ukrainians with this equipment. It takes 22 weeks to train an M1 Abrams crew member. I would imagine that the Leopard 2 tank is equally as complex a piece of equipment. And so Germany is going to provide 14 of these tanks in 10 weeks time? So even if...
Yeah, it sounds all good. Yeah, let's send them tanks. It's a bit more than just sending them tanks. And the analogy you gave with the Formula One car is a good analogy.
The Ukrainians are getting training right now. When they receive the tanks, they're not going to be trained on it, know how to what to do with 14 tanks. If anybody thinks 14 tanks is a game changer, you have no clue what modern war is. 14 tanks will be chewed up if they ever arrive on the battlefield. But the likelihood of all 14 arriving is slim to none because of the maintenance problem. But this is one of the things we talked about previously about the different infantry fighting vehicles that are being provided. The maintenance nightmare they are presented. For the M1 Abrams tank, under ideal circumstances, for every hour of operation, you need 3 hours of maintenance. And that's American crews that are actually trained, dedicated military occupation specialties of guys who go through the schools, they know how to do this, and they have the entire system backing them up.
And you see, like, if, let's say, Ukraine did manage to withstand Russia and, became independent, so to speak, then it's just a matter of time before America probably put military bases over there. They like to plot their military bases all over the place. But this is one of the reasons I feel that Russia is doing this. So that Ukraine don't link up with NATO or get into a position where the US will now be putting military base in their country, in Ukraine, because then Now you got military base right on my front door. Yeah. That's something to consider, man. A lot of people ain't considering that.
In the United States system, we'll have a tank company up front, and then behind it is this huge system ready to back it up. With the Ukrainians, we're going to put an M1 Abrams tank company out front, and then there's going to be this thin little umbilical cord that goes back, because there will be no direct support. If the tank breaks, it has to be the battlefield taken back to a place where it can be repaired.
Now listen to that.
You know, it's going to be very difficult for this tank to appear on the battlefield because the Russians right now are a little irritated, and they're going to put everything they have into interdicting these weapons before they get to the battlefield. But let's say they get to the battlefield and they break. That just means they have to run the gauntlet one more time to get fixed, and then run the gauntlet again to come back. Every time you do that, you're setting up Ukrainians to die. And this is all that's going to happen. These weapons will have no meaningful impact. Just a news flash for NATO and all the NAFO fellas out there that are sort of cheerleading right now that this is a great thing. For the last 20 years, NATO and the United States have been focused singularly on Afghanistan and the Middle East. The last thing they've been doing is preparing for large-scale ground combat in Europe. The Russians have been preparing for large-scale ground combat in Europe since 2008. In 2016, they fundamentally reworked the organizational structures, and they're continuing to update them for the sole purpose of closing with and destroying a NATO-style army. That doesn't just mean how NATO fights doctrinally, but the equipment. Every piece of Russian equipment that's in the Russian inventory today has been designed and is intended to kill NATO tanks. So if people think that the Leopard 2 showing up on the battlefield is suddenly going to scare the Russians, you're wrong. They're ready for it, they're trained for it, and they have the equipment to deal death and destruction. And for the Germans, I just don't know what's going through their brains.
Yeah.
The idea of putting German tanks on Ukrainian soil for the purpose of killing Russians. Man, it didn't work out too good the last time they did it, and it's not going to work out too good this time.
Yeah, it seems like going the opposite direction and moving towards peace. We're doubling down on this. Now, Russia, of course, amplifying its rhetoric over the past 24 hours and saying, this is an extension now of the targets.
Yeah. This goes back to what I was saying. Them sending all these artillery over there is opening, like he's going to explain the targets that Russia can target. And according to what he's going to say, you're going to realize that legally, according to the laws that they have coming in regards to war.
This isn't just the battlefield now. This gives, and you can speak to that a little bit, what you're hearing from Russia now, that you're sort of expanding the battlefield beyond just Ukraine. And now you have Portugal announcing these tanks are going to go through Spain. They're actively telling us how on rail lines they're going to be delivering these tanks. So they're going to be coming from Poland and all of these different locations. What do you make of that side from the Russian side of this now?
Are you sick of having issues with your webinar wasting tons on air?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that the Ukrainian defense minister last month just straight out said that Ukraine is a de facto member of NATO, that the Ukrainian army is a proxy NATO force, and that Ukraine is willing to sacrifice its blood but must receive the equipment from NATO in order to carry out the tasks. So by his own definition, which then was, you could say, well, that's just...
And the thing is, also, on the news over here, you had Boris Johnson, the last Prime Minister, saying how at one point he had a talk with Putin. And now Putin must have said, well, you know, Boris is like, roughly paraphrasing, you know, it'd only take like a minute to send, you know, a missile your way, you know, saying that Putin was sending him threats. Now, you can't believe Boris anyway, because he's told so much lies in office. But the fact of the matter is that's not out there. You know what I'm saying? All of these things are out there, and this is all stirring up the pot, man.
An irresponsible, over-enthusiastic behavior. But then you back it up with the meeting of the Ramstein contact group on January 20th, where all of the defense ministers of NATO and other nations who aren't NATO, like Sweden, Finland, and such got together and, without exception, articulated a similar, theory of their involvement. That this is about a NATO war with Russia. The German foreign minister just said it straight up to her European colleagues. Germany is at war with Russia. Let's just be clear. Russia has every legal right to attack any place in Europe involved in the transfer of weapons to Ukraine. Every media has said, yes, this is what we're going to do, has become an active participant conflict.
You hear that? He said they have every legal right to target such countries. All praises to the Most High.
The laws of war, Russia can take them out. Now, here's the good news. Russia's simply putting a marker down and saying, you've just increased our target depth. We can do this. But Russia has been managing escalation from the very beginning. The last thing Russia wants is to turn this into not just a de facto, but a de jure of conflict between NATO.
And it's not even what Russia wants, it's what the Most High wants. And, he does want war. When you read Joel chapter 2 and I believe 9, it says, prepare, let me quickly get that when I come back. It's not what Russia wants, it's what the Most High wants, man. What his intention is. Not to Joel 3, select Joel 3 and 9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. It says, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spear. Let the weak say, I am strong. When it says, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction, because those plowshares, which are, agricultural tools, are now being used for war. It says, let the weak say I'm strong. You look at Russia. Russia was strong at one point when they were the USSR. Went down. Now they built themselves back up. Same with China. You got places like North Korea is getting strong. Iran. These places got missiles, man. They're places you wouldn't think of before, like North Korea. Who are they? Accrington Stanley. Anyway, let's get back to this video.
In Russia, because now it's nuclear, into not just a de facto, but a de jure of conflict between NATO and Russia, because now it's nuclear war and it's over. So I don't see, at least in this iteration, Russia reaching out and touching Polish logistics centers, German railheads, Spanish tunnels. I don't see that happening because Russia doesn't need to do that. Russia's winning this war, hands down. And Russia's going to win this war, hands down. But Russia is letting NATO know that if by some strange set of occurrences, all this equipment showed up in Ukraine, and Ukrainians were able to assemble a mailed fist that threatened Crimea or anything else, that it's game set over. I mean, Russia will open up and unleash everything they have on NATO because NATO is an active participant in this conflict. And again, if you take a look at the nuclear doctrine, one of the conditions for the use of nuclear weapons is if NATO or a NATO-like entity assembles sufficient conventional military power that threatens the existential survival of Russia. So what NATO is seeking to do, they're not going to accomplish it, but what they're seeking to do is give Ukraine to act as a NATO proxy to threaten the existential survival of Russia.
Yeah, but the flip side to that is now NATO is opening themselves up for attack. You mentioned earlier on, you can't say, well, we got nothing to do with it. We weren't firing the guns. What the guns? We gave them the weapons.
Which means Russia, if this actually occurred, would use nuclear weapons, not on Ukraine. They've said it straight up. This isn't going to be a weapon against Ukraine. They're going to hit NATO. They're going to hit London. They're going to hit Berlin. They're going to hit Paris.
See, all these countries where, you know, let me
hit Brussels. They're going to hit Madrid. They're going to hit Lisbon. Hey, Portugal, good job. You just made yourself a nuclear target. This is the reality. Now, again,
yeah, all these countries, you know, the US, UK, they've really been untouched. You know, this is why they feel they can do some of the things they do, because they've been getting away with it for a while. But it's only a matter of time before that cup actually passes over, man.
Yeah, the good news is Russia's winning this war, and they're going to win this war. Russia's.
You know what? I'm going to stop it there. I'll put the link in the description so you can go back and check out the rest of the video. You're getting the gist of what's happening here. This is Lamentations 4:21. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee." Yeah. America's never really been touched. UK have never really been touched. You know, certain other countries have not been touched. So you believe that, you know, you have this untouchable spirit. But the scripture says the cup's going to pass on to you, man. Thou shalt be drunken and shall make thyself naked. There's Revelation 18:7. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. Yeah, because you've never been touched. So you got that pride, where it says the pride of thine heart has deceived thee. Slakia. Therefore shall our plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord who judgeth her. Obadiah 1:6. How are the things of Esau searched out? Because at the end of the day, these are all Edomite nations. You know, just different fractions of the same coin. Yeah, different tribes. It's how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Yeah, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Yeah. Oh, let's send them tanks. Yeah, we'll send them some too. And prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound. And Russia was at peace with them at one point. You know, all these other nations, they was at peace because Babylon ruled supreme. But that supremacy is waning, which is why you see them doing certain things today to try and keep hold of what they had. But it's slipping, man. That's someone trying to grasp onto a fallen kingdom. You know, when you're falling and you're reaching out to try and grab onto something to break your fall, that's what we're seeing. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Why? Because of the pride of your heart, man. And prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him, because, you know, all the youth shall witness the day when Babylon shall fall. Yeah, but, you know, I just wanted to touch that, man. I found that video very interesting and enlightening. Like I said, I'm going to post the link in the description so that you can watch the rest of it. But hopefully, this short lesson was edifying. With that, we're going to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Yaharaka Kadash, Kwame Sha'Allah.